Hey guys, welcome back to the Music Hole. My name is Cole, and I'm very excited today because we're talking about one of the biggest albums of all time, which of course is What's the Story? Morning Glory by Oasis from 1995. Now, I know that a lot of the songs on this album have been played to death on the radio, but there are some cool album tracks that I'm going to talk about as well. And I just want to say one thing, which is that a couple of the major hits on this record I can't clip on YouTube because the band won't let me. But I mean, let's be honest, you probably heard them a million times, so you already know the deal. So I'm going to talk about the lesser known tracks off this album, and I'm very excited because, I mean, this is just a milestone Britpop album. I remember when this came out, everyone was saying that these guys are the next Beatles, right? And you can definitely hear that on this album in particular. It's very Beatles-ish. But this was their last great album, in my opinion. This one and their debut, Definitely Maybe, are both must-listens, in my opinion. But this is probably the best Oasis album. So anyway, enough of me jibber-jabbering. Let's dive in with track number 1, which is called Hello.
Cause the sun don't shine. Nobody ever mentions the weather can make or break your day. Nobody ever seems to remember life is a game we play. We live in the shadows and we had the chance to throw it away. And it's never gonna be the same, cause the years are falling by like the rain. It's never gonna be the same till the life I knew comes to my eyes and says hello.
Yeah, I just love this opener. It's so catchy. It's so memorable. Of course, that's going to be a theme throughout the album. But anyway, I also really like the lyrics on this song, especially right at the beginning when he says, I don't feel as if I know you. You take up all my time. So basically the song is about a guy who's gotten old, he's grown old, and he never really accomplished any of the things that he wanted to, right? He's never really achieved any of his dreams. You know, maybe he started out in these younger days as a musician, but he gave it up because it wasn't working out and he wasn't making any money, and he probably, you know, settled down and got married and had kids. So he's grown old. Maybe he's like in his 40s or 50s, and he doesn't recognize himself. He's become this shell of a man where basically his old personality, his youthfulness, his energy is gone, and he's now just like, you know, a former shell of his self, or however you say it, if that makes any sense. So this poor guy, you know, his life has passed him by. You know, he's probably one of those people who, you know, every day just kind of blurs into the next one, right? Nothing really stands out. So this guy's life is more or less over, in his opinion. You know, nothing crazy is going on in his life that is worth mentioning. So this poor guy, it's kind of a downer. You know, it's a very fun song sonically, but it's kind of a downer. But that's okay. But anyway, let's move on to track number 2, which is called Roll With It.
You gotta roll with it, you gotta take it time, you gotta say what you say, don't let
Again, another really memorable album track. You know, it wasn't a hit, but I love the message of this song because, you know, I struggle with this constantly in my own life. You know, he's saying roll with it. He's saying don't let people stand in your way. Don't let negative thoughts get in the way of you doing whatever you want to do, right? Go out, play pool, go mingle, go, go to parties, go on trips, do things that you might otherwise not do because, oh, I don't want to spend the money, I want to save and become an old miser probably, or, I'm afraid I'm not going to have a good time, so I'm not even going to bother, right? I mean, that's a big thing, especially for me, where, I take a look around town and I see like, oh, there's the dance class, and I just immediately think, well, I can't possibly, I wouldn't possibly enjoy that, right? So I'm not even going to go. I'm not even going to give it a shot. But for all I know, I love dancing, but I just never tried it, There's many things in my life that I never really give a chance because I kind of just assume I won't like it, But this guy in the song, I appreciate what he's trying to say. He's just saying roll with it, Try things out. You might not like them. Maybe you do like them. And for all you know, maybe you'll make a bunch of new friends or you'll meet your future wife. You never know. So this song to me is basically the thoughts of an anxious person, and he's just telling himself in his head, he's psyching himself up, just do it, just roll with it. Don't worry about what people think. Don't worry about don't worry about if you might not like what you do, right? If you end up spending the whole weekend doing something that you didn't enjoy, that's fine. That's just life. So I like the song quite a bit because I struggle with this. But anyway, let's move on to track number 4, which is called Don't Look Back in Anger. So this song is very similar to the last one in the sense that it's also about trying to move on, trying not to live in the past and let all of your memories bring you down. But I think specifically the song is really about the band Oasis and how after the first record, I mean, they just blew up. They just became super famous. And that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody, especially when your first album is just such a great album. Because definitely it had at least 4 or 5 songs that are just out of this world, in my opinion. But the whole album is great too. But the point is, what I'm trying to say is, when you've reached a point where you've proven yourself to such a degree where you've set the benchmark super high, it's got to be really tough for an artist because you're expected to maintain that high quality with your writing and your songs and your musicianship and all that. So right out of the gate, you set the bar super high, and I can't imagine the amount of pressure that the Gallagher brothers went through to record this album. because this album, in my opinion, is even better than the last one, which is pretty amazing. But, I appreciate that he's getting into the mind of a newly famous person, of somebody who has been skyrocketed, by the critics to the point where like they're expected to just be amazing from now on, right? But you can't always think of a great song or a great lyric. Sometimes you're going to screw up. Sometimes you're going to experiment and you're going to make a bad album. And it's interesting because, there are examples of bands like Pulp, for instance, which had an amazing album in the 90s called Different Class. But I think that was like their 7th album. So they had time to build up their skill set and, get fans and stuff like that. But a band like Oasis with Liam and Noel Gallagher, just right out of the gate, they hit a home run, they hit a grand slam, and basically they're, to some degree, having a really hard time dealing with the pressure. So I appreciate what they're talking about here. That's what this song means to me, at least. So anyway, let's move along to track number 7 now, which is called Some Might Say.
Say that sunshine follows thunder. Go and tell it to the man who cannot shine. Some might say that we should never ponder on our thoughts today, 'cause they all sway over time. Some might say we will find a brighter day. Some might say we will find a brighter day. Yeah, 'cause I've been standing at the station in need of education in the rain. You made no preparation for my reputation once again. The sink is full of dishes. She's got many dishes on the brain. It was overflowing gently, but it's not elementary, my friend.
Some might say that sunshine follows thunder. And then he says, go and tell it to the man who cannot shine. I mean, I love that line because basically, on one hand, you could argue that you got to be positive. And the only way to be positive is to think that, it can only get worse, right? Isn't that the classic saying? Well, it could only get worse. Which is true in most cases, but sometimes people are just so completely screwed. Maybe they're just completely addicted to like cocaine or something, or they're like $100,000 in debt with no job, with no degree or whatever, or maybe they committed a crime and now they're in jail for a decade. Sometimes you are just screwed, right? And I mean, yes, the only way that you can mentally survive anything, any bad situation, is to try to think positively, even if it's like a real stretch, right? But you got to do it. And I know I talk about normalization a lot on this channel. If you've seen a lot of my videos, which you probably haven't, but let's say you did. So you know that normalization, at least in my opinion, is what we do as humans to adapt to shitty situations, right? But it also works the other way, right? Because if you have like millions of dollars and everything appears to be great in your life, you normalize that too. So that's why you have people who are super rich, who are really depressed. People might say like, how could you possibly be depressed? You've got a mansion, you've got like $10 million, you've got a Lambo. I mean, how in the world could you ever be depressed? Well, you get used to things. And once you get used to things, you start noticing the lack of things, right? And that's what we call the non-positive thinking. So you got to appreciate what you have, and you also have to say to yourself, it can only get worse in most cases. So that's kind of what this song means to me, is he's trying to remind himself, that he's debating in his mind, rather, that, yes, it can only get worse, and you got to think positive. But on the other hand, there are people who are just like rock bottom. They're homeless, and they're addicts, and they're in debt or whatever. They have no friends. They have no family. I mean, I can't even imagine. So anyway, I appreciate him, getting into this in a way. But anyway, let's move along to track number 8, which is called Cast No Shadow.
Here's a thought for every man who tries to understand what is in his hands. He walks along the open road of love and life, surviving if he can. Surviving if he can. Bound with all the weight of all the words he tried to say, chained to all the places that he never wished to stay. Bound with all the weight of all the words he tried to say. As he faced the sun, he cast no shadow. As they took his soul, they stole his pride. As they took his soul, they stole his pride.
I really like this song. I mean, basically, it's about a guy who is very, very smart and self-aware, in the sense that, like, he knows that he doesn't really matter, that he's going to cast no shadow. And what I mean by that is, he knows that he's going to have no legacy, really. I mean, almost everybody on planet Earth is going to have no legacy. They matter to their friends and family, and they matter to their community. Every job, I say this a lot, but I mean it. Every job is important. Even if you're working at Subway, somebody's got to work at Subway. So you're part of a community. You're part of the wheel of industry, in the sense that, like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You matter. But the song is about somebody who, he wants to rise above that. He is thinking on the level that he doesn't want to be just another guy who's just surviving, who's just regretting, not asking the girl out that he really had a crush on. He's regretting not leaving his small town and, pursuing LA or something, and really trying to make something of himself. So this song is kind of like about what it means. It's about what it means to be an artist, in my opinion, because artists, if you're gonna make a song, or you're gonna paint a painting, or you're going to, film a movie, I would imagine that every single artist is worried to some degree about, are they going to be remembered? Is anybody going to like their work? Am I just going to be a guy surviving, or am I going to have a legacy? Am I going to cast a shadow? So the guy in this song, he's thinking about life way too hard. He's not satisfied with how things are going. He doesn't want to be just a cog in the machine. He wants to matter on a global level and a historical level. And the reality is, most people, they need to recognize that their life is basically about their small circles, their family, their friends, their town, their city. That's what really matters. As long as you have, as long as you can positively affect the lives of the people around you, I think you can say that you've lived a good life, right? It's not like everybody has to be Elon Musk or something to have a good life, right? But this guy in the song, he's very ambitious, but he's a little bit lazy probably, and he kind of lacks courage to do what he really wants to do. So, I mean, I appreciate what he's talking about here. So, you know, plus, it's interesting, by the way, I was reading about this song. Apparently, he wrote it specifically to be a B-side, but apparently he liked it so much that they ended up including it on the album. So that's kind of a fun, you know, fact. But anyway, so let's move on to track number 10, which is called Morning Glory, which is part of the name of the album. Let's check it out.
Today's the day that all the world will see. Another sunny afternoon, walking to the sound of my favorite tune. Tomorrow never knows what it doesn't know too soon. Need a little time to wake up. Need a little time to wake up, wake up. Need a little time to wake up. Need a little time to rest your mind. You know you should, so I guess you might as well. What's the story, morning glory? Well, you need a little time to wake up, wake up. Well, what's the story, morning glory?
So this song is kind of funny because apparently, you know, it's really about a guy who gets his motivation and energy every day from putting on a favorite song, but also doing cocaine. He's basically talking about doing cocaine. So he's getting through his everyday boring life by blasting his favorite song, doing a lot of drugs, maybe drinking some coffee, and that's just how he gets through his day, right? And I don't blame him. I mean, thank goodness for the fact that we have all of this wonderful content to enjoy to, you know, make our lives a little bit more fun and, you know, less tedious, right? So I'm a music guy, of course, so I really, really, really appreciate the fact that there's so many songs available to me at all times to help boost my mood. Because as I mentioned, you know, I can get a little depressed quite often. So, you know, blasting a killer song like Don't Look Back in Anger really helps. So I like what he's talking about. We all need something to energize us, to motivate us, to, you know, get us going, you know, whatever it might be. So I like what he's talking about. Plus this song is just kind of, it's kind of memorable anyway. So, but yeah, let's move along to the last track on the album, which of course is the very, very famous Champagne Supernova.
How many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Where were you while we were getting high? Slowly walking down the hall, faster than a cannonball. Where were you while we were getting high? Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide in a champagne supernova in the sky. Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide in a champagne supernova, a champagne supernova in the sky.
Yes, a very, very, very famous song by this point, overplayed on the radio probably, but it's also open to interpretation. And the way I like to think about it is I think of it as the story of a bipolar person who's gone manic. And I say that because of these few lines where he says, "Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide in a champagne supernova in the sky." So what that means to me personally as a bipolar person is that's exactly what it's like to be manic, where basically you're ruining your life, but in your mind, everything is great, everything is going well, you're on top of the world, you feel very confident. So, you're underneath this landslide that you've created that's been ruining your life, but in your mind, you're enjoying the champagne supernova in the sky. And so, people who aren't aware of bipolar disorder don't really understand what exactly is going on here. Because most people, and I'm just assuming this, by the way, but let's just assume it. I'm assuming most people are basically the same. They're pretty much on an even keel throughout their life. They don't really go super depressed and then super energetic and confident, throughout the year. They're just kind of like here. So they're kind of like the same person all the time, more or less. But someone with bipolar disorder who's not doing anything about it can go through these really big ups and downs. And, it's of course the worst when you're really down or really up. So the guy in this song, he's trying to explain, I guess, to his friends and family that, if this is why I've ruined my life, it's probably because I went manic. And I just want you to understand, what happened and not just assume I'm some crazy idiot, right? Like, try to be sympathetic towards what happened to me. It's kind of what the song means to me. So again, you can interpret the song in a number of ways. And I do know that it's not necessarily about anything like officially, according to, whoever wrote it. I forgot if it was Liam or Noel. But anyway, so yeah, that is What's the Story, Morning Glory. It's just an amazingly consistent Britpop album. There's just so many great songs on it, some of which I could not play for you guys because of copyright issues. But anyway, I hope you thought it was interesting. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It would really help me out. But yeah, that's Oasis for you guys. You got to check them out, and hope you have a good one.